Good day, everyone. And as we warm up for today's celebration, let's kick it off by exercising inclusivity. To be truly inclusive, it's important that we amplify everyone's unique perspective and ensure that all voices are heard. In the spirit of inclusion, we want to make the sessions interactive as possible. We also want to hear your thoughts. So please share with what you have on your mind through Mentimeter. Go to mentimeter.com and enter the code that you see on screen. Please fill in the necessary information, answer away at all the questions, and let's learn from each other, and let's also spark a discussion. Stay tuned as we take a peek into your answers a little later on. It's time to get settled as we are about to begin our program in just a few minutes. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Accenture's Equality Innovation Virtual Event, the first ever virtual event dialogue on inclusion and diversity. My name is James Deacon, and I will be your host for this afternoon. It is an absolute pleasure to be here with you because it's a topic very, very close to my heart. You see, a lot of people might not know this, but I myself am a bit of a mix-up. I was born here in the Philippines to a British father, or I like to say made in the Philippines with imported parts. So I know what it's like to have a couple of different cultures, actually a little more so because I did spend some time in Australia as well. So having a British father, Filipina mom, marrying a New Zealander, but living in Australia, I certainly understand the struggles that some people go through, especially to create that equality in the workspace. And that's what this whole event is about this time. We're here to create this conversation, a conversation that matters, and of course, to highlight the benefits of a truly inclusive company to work for. So the subject of our celebration today is, like I said, something I hold very, very, very dear to my heart, because treating people with respect and equality is not just something we should do as human beings, but as Accenture has shown, it actually can be a more productive workplace. So you can have a commercial benefit to all of this as well. So Accenture has been paving the way in transforming the workplace experience. Together with our guests and their organization, we can further prove that by celebrating the differences, we accelerate the value of embracing equality and igniting innovation. So let us now officially open our program, and may I call on Accenture's Country Managing Director, Lito Tayag, to welcome us all.
Thank you, James, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I hope that everyone is doing well and staying healthy during these times. Accenture is unwavering in its commitment to inclusion and diversity. As the theme says, we believe that a culture of equality drives innovation. I also believe that it is us who bring to life the true meaning of an inclusive organization, where each one of us, by bringing our uniqueness and our ability, pave the way for everyone to achieve his fullest potential. Through the years, Accenture has set bold goals to accelerate in the areas of gender equality, persons with disabilities, LGBT+, and cultural diversity. Our annual global research, which we call Getting to Equal, focuses on the impact a culture of equality brings. With this research, we are able to engage in relevant conversations like today to raise awareness and encourage action on all our areas of focus. For gender equality, we work to recruit, develop, and retain women at all career levels to achieve a gender-balanced workforce globally by 2025. And we are proud to say that Accenture in the Philippines, we are at 53.5% gender balance as early as the end of our fiscal year 2019. For persons with disabilities, we continue to create a barrier-free environment for our colleagues with visible and invisible impairments. This year, we had more than 4% self-declared persons with disabilities in the organization, significantly higher than what the government is recommending at 1%. We also launched our suite of accessibility solutions, a proud innovation from the Philippines and the first of its kind in Accenture globally, which provides best fitting and personalized technologies to our colleagues who need support and accommodation. For our LGBT+ community, supported by more than 14,000 allies, we ensure that everyone feels that they belong and that by bringing their true selves to work, they will thrive and succeed. We build a workplace for all ages, races, religions, and culture. It is through reaching out across the world and across the country that we become more creative and we discover how to be innovative. This year, Accenture ranked #1 in Refinitive's Diversity and Inclusion Index for the second consecutive year. And for Accenture Philippines, we've had recognition with the 2 wins in our Global Equality Awards. And the Accessibility Center won the Greater Than Award in recognition of our pioneering efforts in PWDs. These are significant recognition of our efforts to advance inclusion and diversity. While we continue to lead in this area, we could not achieve it on our own. The strength of our partnerships with various institutions and organizations, some of them represented here today, through our guests, have allowed us to progress further with our inclusion and diversity initiatives. The commitment of business organizations, including local ones, has paved the way for frequent dialogues on how to build more inclusive organizations and industries. And the respect that each and every one of our employees give to one another allow us to progress meaningfully toward inclusion and diversity. All of these, in the end, contribute to our mission of improving the way the world works and lives. And so I'm grateful to all our special guests this afternoon for choosing to spend some time with all of us to talk about the value of inclusion and diversity. It is truly inspiring to know that more and more organizations are visibly working for a culture and society of equality to bring about innovation. My ask to each one of you is that we should all take this personally. Let us all individually lead the way by saying, doing, and driving a new mindset and a cultural change that make this inclusive world to live in for us and for the next generation. Thank you, and let us all enjoy and learn from the conversations.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Lito Tayag, for setting the tone there for today's empowering session. Now, at this point, let me share with you a quick overview of what to expect and what to look forward to in today's program. We'll be hearing from exemplary individuals, and they share with us their stories and insights on the empowering potential of inclusion and diversity, while also giving voice to women, persons with disabilities, LGBT plus, and people with cross-cultural backgrounds, respectively. Afterwards, we will be inviting our speakers for a Q&A session, so make sure you have your questions ready for that. That should be very dynamic and interesting as well. We'll also ask our speakers to participate in a real fun challenge before we wrap up our event. Sounds like a great afternoon so far, doesn't it? Well, it certainly does. Now, I'm sure we can all agree that gender bias has no place in the workforce in the future. True innovation that knows no limits, and gender should never be a barrier. Before we introduce our first speaker, let us first discover how women are making strides at Accenture with this short video from the managing director of Accenture's Advanced Technology Centers in the Philippines, Jenny Hans. Please watch this.
Hi, I am Jenny Hans. I am a managing director from Accenture Technology in the Philippines. From my experience, I've always seen that Accenture gives equal opportunity to all, regardless of age, gender, or personal circumstance. I witnessed this firsthand 17 years ago when I was hired. At that time, I was newly married, I was pregnant with my first son, and I told my hiring manager that in 5 months, I would need to take my maternity leave. I had low hope then of being hired, and I was thinking, maybe it's not the right time for me because of my personal circumstance. But after a few days, lo and behold, I got a call from Accenture. They told me I was the person they were looking for, the job, and I was hired. That was my first positive experience with Accenture. Throughout my career in Accenture, I've had many roles, and some of them, what worked for me was getting myself prepared. There are literally thousands of trainings available to me, and I took advantage of that. As an analyst, I got my SAP certification. As an executive, I got my project management certification, my agile certification. I kept myself up to date. I know that training alone is not sufficient, and so I also seek for mentors. I did not limit myself to my direct supervisor or my direct project manager, but instead I seek people that I can learn from, people whom I can trust. More importantly, people who think differently from me. Because what I find is these are the very people who would challenge me, who would take me out of my comfort zone so that I can achieve more than what I thought I could. I want to leave you with a quote from Walt Disney. He said, "It's fun to do the impossible." So I challenge you, do not be bounded by what society tells you. Go ahead, seek, explore, experiment, learn. Because when you rise, we all rise.
Well, that was definitely extremely inspiring, and it's amazing to witness how Accenture continues to foster gender equality in the workplace. When she rises, we all rise. I've heard that somewhere before. I'm trying to think where. Oh, that's right. Maybe it's our next speaker, our next guest for today. She is the managing director of Lala Move Philippines, which is otherwise known as the backbone of our economy during the lockdown. The country's fastest growing on-demand delivery service, always seeking ways to innovate. Throughout her career, she was former project manager at Groupon, Globe Telecom, and Mint. Now, with her remarkable drive for innovation, she is now accelerating Lala Move to new directions. Now, get this, right? If you think this is just a bunch of PR stuff, when she joined, there were 150 drivers. That sounds pretty cool, but now it has 100,000 drivers. Remarkably, 1,000 of those drivers happen to be women. That's right. So women in the workplace, 1,000 out of 100,000 under her direction. Lala Move has also expanded into Lala Food, Lala Move Automobile, among other things. She also is part of this trailblazing initiative called Lala Jeep that we featured just recently because it provides an alternative livelihood opportunity for displaced jeepney drivers by collaborating with the Quezon City government. Discover her uplifting story, which proves that when she rises, we all rise. You see, there it is again. There's where I heard it. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a very warm welcome to this dynamic young lady, Dana Maharocon.
Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me here today. I am very, very excited to talk to you guys today about inclusivity. This is something that, that's extremely important for companies to continue to grow and thrive. And more importantly, this is one of the biggest things that society needs to continue to build on. So really looking forward to talking to all of you and share some of the experiences that I've had over the years. And I really hope that we get to share things that inspire you and enable you to help support this cause. All right. Thank you.
Okay, that was quick. We are live now. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show, Dana. Your story has certainly sparked interests and, well, we'd like to know a lot more. So we have a few questions lined up for you over here, and please briefly share with us your career journey and how you landed to where you are now. It would be nice if you could share some highlights or maybe even share some surprises maybe that you've encountered in the workplace as a woman.
It's been a pretty interesting journey for me for my career. I actually started with a tech company called Groupon. You know, when e-commerce was just starting out here in the Philippines. Oh, that was fresh off of college. I honestly didn't even know what I wanted to do back then. I started in sales, realized that I wasn't really cut out for sales. Shifted to project management, basically tried out a lot of things until I settled with something. The great thing about the company that I was in back then is that I was very young. I had nothing but my college degree behind me, and they were very open to allowing me to see where I could fit in. And shortly after that, I moved into Globe, still being in the digital space, so kind of like a startup too. And then to Gcash, and now with Lalamu. So I've been with Lalamu for the past 3.5 years. I was actually employee number 7 when I started out. And now we are 250 employees strong with 3 companies, as you mentioned earlier, and 100,000 drivers. So I would say that Lalamove is definitely a women-driven company. We have over 70% of our population there as women. Half of our management team are also women. And I've heard this question posed so many times, right? Dan, really a woman in logistics? Right? But here you have one of the fastest growing logistics company in the Philippines, being 70% female driven, and with a management team that's a little more than half women. So it's pretty exciting times. We've made a conscious effort to make sure that we create a culture of equality and inclusivity, right? So that we craft a stage for people to continue to thrive, right? It's been a very, very interesting journey dealing with thousands of partner drivers on the road, right? And so far in the past 3.5 years, I would say that never really mattered. Having partner drivers, logistics is traditionally a very male-dominated industry, right? And you have this company, this disruptor that's a tech company as it is, which is a big disruption to begin with, run by females, right? And this is something that actually created a lot more things that have helped the industry, because this kind of collaboration between varying backgrounds, varying genders, varying cultures, right, have allowed us to create something so strong and so big. And I thank you for saying that we are the backbone of the economy, James, because this is really what we aspire for Lalamove to be.
Well, I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one that said that. I struggle to find anyone who would disagree with that statement. And you know what? Another thing that I would find people struggling to disagree with a statement, who said that women are no good in logistics, has obviously never seen like a mother prepare lunches for like 3 kids while preparing their homework the night before getting them off to school. I mean, every household is a logistical masterpiece run usually by a woman, at least in my case. So I don't know where they got that. But I mean, meaning where they got that women are not good at logistics. My question to you, though, is if that's one characteristic of a woman in the workplace, what are 3 characteristics for you of a woman that inspires or perhaps maybe drives people in an organization to be more innovative and successful?
I would say that perhaps I'd move into traits or characteristics that leaders should have, right? Again, in the goal of talking about equality, male or female, it doesn't really matter, right? But we look at leaders that inspire people who are empathic about their peers, about the people that they work with, have compassion about the things that they do. Leaders set the direction for their teams to follow, a north star that the company should be working towards. And the only way to be able to achieve that or to move effectively towards that is if you move with compassion and empathy for the people that you work for or the people that you work with. When you create a stage of inclusivity within the company, this also inspires people to treat their peers with fairness. We create a very collaborative environment that allows people to thrive, right? And lastly, with a leader that works with empathy and compassion, creates a stage for inclusivity. This allows people to be a lot more resilient with the challenges that come their way. Because now you have a company that has built a foundation or a culture that has all of the traits that I had mentioned, starting with their leader, that will now allow them to be a lot grittier with the new things and the new challenges that will come their way. Right? So I think that uh, especially in the case of companies, for especially during this period, right? These are things that are absolutely necessary to drive companies forward. It's tough times, right? But at the end of the day, our leaders move us forward. And if we have inspiring leaders, we definitely can.
I like that. Inspiring, there's empathy, there's collaborative, there's compassion. Maybe this goes a long way to explaining why New Zealand was the first country to declare themselves COVID-free at one point. I'm not sure. But there seems to be a common thread among countries that have done well with managing COVID and women leaders. So those are some of the characteristics that help drive an organization and help in, I guess, a woman in the organization. But are there any things like other challenges that you've experienced that maybe that's unique to a woman in your industry, in such a fast-growing, agile industry?
Well, I did mention to you that when I first took over my role in Lalamove, and I would get interviewed, right? Some of the introductions that I would get or the questions in some panel interviews that I would get would be, Dana Maharokon, the woman in logistics, and literally everyone beside me would be males, right? And I I never really cared about that stuff before, up until I realized it was repeated once, twice, thrice. It seemed to be the first batch of public engagements that I would have that as a constant introduction. And I'm honestly very fortunate because I didn't think of it as anything until I was there. Right. And I know that this is a situation that a lot of people deal with. That instead of, looking at the things that they've done, their track record, the achievements that they've had, they look at what is more visible, right? Which is a young woman that is now challenging or making a change in the industry. not to say that there was some form of discrimination where I didn't get opportunities during that period, but the feeling that I had settled with was still something that had become distracting, right? And that's something that that I think a lot of people really deal with on a daily basis. That women deal with on a daily basis. I also remember when I was a lot younger, when I was starting out, I actually dressed a lot older for my age, because I had worked back then in a slightly traditional company where the people I worked with were all much older and were again very male dominated. So I had dressed like I was in my mid to late 30s. I really power dressed the whole way. I would speak as if I'm older than my age, just so that I would have to break that barrier. And it was a very conscious effort. Can you imagine all the things that people could have done faster if I didn't spend an hour preparing myself for those kinds of interactions, right? And I just wanted to make it easier for myself. It's not I don't want to turn this into a sob story or anything. I consciously did that on my own without any, I didn't really feel bad during the time. It was fun dressing up like I'm 30 or 40 during back then, but it was still unnecessary, right? We want our team members to thrive in a stage where their talent is recognized, not the way they dress, not the way they talk, not just where they come from or what their backgrounds are, how old they are, but rather you want people to thrive and grow and make an impact because of who they are and what they do, right? So I think these are things that we've in the Philippines specifically. I think we've made a lot of we've already progressed on this topic by a whole deal, right? In the company that I work with, I'm the only female managing director. All the other countries are run by males, right? The Philippines is also the only country that has 75% women, and it's the complete opposite in our other counterparts. I think other countries have it a lot tougher than we do. Right? And I think that I'm actually quite proud of how we have already started progressing on this.
Wow, I certainly got a lot of insights out of that. Thank you very much, Dana, and we look forward to hearing from you later on in the Q&A, so don't go too far, okay? The future of innovation lies ahead of us, and it should be for all of us. A brighter future is when no one gets left behind. Ohana, right? I think that's from the movie. I love that. Let's all be inspired as we take a glimpse into how people with visible, visible, and invisible disabilities are empowered to perform at their full potential at Accenture. Let's learn more about Accenture's commitment to accessibility with this short video from the Senior Manager of Accenture Intelligent Operations Centers in the Philippines, Mr. Carlo Barles.
For more than 13 years, Accenture and a top technology company have forged a strong alliance that not only made each other greater than, but also empowered people to achieve more. I'm Carlo Barles, leading our biggest finance and accounting operations in the Philippines. In 2017, we onboarded Hans, our first deaf resource who powered our robotic process automation that digitized 95% of the functions and resulted to $1 million signed off business value. That was a wow moment for us and the client, opening more opportunities for employees with special needs and jointly became our priority. We've certified people in American and Filipino Sign Language, participated in Angels Long for Visit, Civil Service Review, and on-the-job training for PWDs. Now, we have more than 70 PWDs who support our clients, its customers, and partners around the world. We have broken boundaries. We continue to win, lead, and grow, believing that greater innovation comes with quality.
Well, it really is truly remarkable to see an accessible and barrier-free workplace, no pun intended, especially for persons with disabilities who are offered equal work opportunities alongside their peers. And Accenture truly makes that possible. Our next speaker is an inspiring innovator who has made breakthroughs for persons with disabilities. He is the first Filipino to ever receive the Inspired Leadership Award at the Performance Theater 2019. A fellow at the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative of the U.S. State Department and the Global Good Fund, he is the founder of Virtualahan, a social enterprise breaking down employment barriers for people with disabilities and other disadvantaged groups. He founded Virtualahan after experiencing employment discrimination himself as a medical laboratory scientist because of his chronic disease. Virtualahan's influential impact was then awarded the Global Champion under the Young Innovators category at this year's World Summit Awards and the Google Business Stories Award. So let us listen to his story where he discovers his unique abilities unleashed. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Ryan Jersaba.
Maayong hapon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Ryan, and we are working with persons with disability and other disadvantaged group who experience workplace exclusion, and we ensure that they get access to job opportunities in the new digital economy. Together with Accenture, we share the mission of using the equalizing power of technology to break down barriers to unleash the abilities of persons with disabilities so that they won't get left behind. And we are very excited to share some insights about our work in disability inclusion today in our event.
Hey, sorry about that. We had a small little... So, Ryan, it's a pleasure to have you with us here this afternoon. And your story, once again, it truly makes a difference, especially for persons with disability in this country who need a lot of your help. So, what we'd like to know is, what is the problem that you're currently solving and why so passionate about it? I know you touched on it a little bit and so did I in the intro, but could you put that again into your own words?
Yes, persons with disabilities, James, experience workplace exclusion, particularly employment discrimination on a daily basis, which then results to economic inactivity and then led to insufficient social protection that is key to reducing extreme poverty. And in 2015, I personally experienced how to be socially excluded in the workplace because of my chronic medical condition. And this story is shared not just by persons with disability, but as well as sex workers, recovering drug addicts, solo parents even. And that inspired us to build a Virtualahan and just sharing the knowledge that we have to the world right now on how can they foster that inclusion in their companies as well.
Wonderful. Now, how did Virtualahan, with your partnership with Accenture, unleash the abilities of persons with disabilities?
In 2015, Virtualahan and Accenture inked a partnership to provide digital skills training to persons with disability and other disadvantaged communities. What we do is we provide like instant skills to create instant jobs, and that is skills in e-commerce, social media marketing, graphic design, website development, and then also provide 3 layers of employment support to our graduates. But what I think is special about our approach is we use like mindfulness and well-being as part of our curriculum. We have a resident psychologist that also does life coaching to our scholars, which then turn our graduates to become community builders, where they start their own support group, and then they actually become advocates for diversity and inclusion in the respective companies that they were eventually employed.
Okay, and how can someone become a culture maker for persons with disabilities?
I think the easiest way to do that is to acknowledge that disability is part of human experience. And at any point in our life, you can actually be a person with disability. So do not start to care when you are already a member of the sector. And in your case, for example, I know you're very passionate about transportations and cars. One way we can actually do that is by educating people on safe driving, responsible driving. And like motor vehicular accidents are causing a lot of spinal cord injury, which then leads to disability. So that simple way, I think anyone can be actually a culture maker.
I love that. I love that too. That you don't have to have a disability to champion the cause of disability. You don't have to be an animal to fight for animal rights. So why would you need a
Exactly.
disability to fight for? There, I'm glad we agree there. So it's important to be a culture changer, because I think it was also a wonderful point about people at some point in their life will have a disability, even if it's just temporary. So if you just think about it like that, you'll already be a step ahead. How do you think companies can embrace disability inclusion, and what concrete steps would you recommend for that?
I always recommend for companies to look internally within their organizations already. If they have created a safe space for their employees with disability to actually embrace their disability and not endanger their job or their promotion. So I would encourage companies to look at your company and audit your people and give them the space to come out as persons with disability, especially like non-visible disability like bipolar disorders and other neurodivergent type of disability. And also institutionalize diversity and inclusion within your organization. It is good to be intentional and be mindful with our efforts in diversity and inclusion from leadership down to our frontliner to make sure that the culture within the organization is truly inclusive and it is not just like an added work given to people.
Ryan, thank you so much for this, and we'll catch up with you again in just a little while. We'll have another session with you, but in the meantime, we're going to move on to our next speaker. So a lot of insights there for persons with disabilities. And well, another thing about well, what Ryan touched on is it could be a number of things. I mean, he's talking about mental disabilities, and sometimes if your lifestyle or your sexuality, for example, is in question, you could also be handicapped in some areas and some jobs, some companies who don't understand this. And if you think about like how we have this world full of beautiful colors, and that's what makes it so special, but then they only limit you to black and white, well, how awful would that be? Well, in a way, that's how some of our LGBT plus community will feel, is that they can't let their true colors shine in the workplace. So it's important that you have a workplace that is inclusive and vibrant with that inclusivity. So let's take a look now at how Accenture encourage the LGBT plus community and employees to shine in their own unique ways as they innovate in an environment where they feel they can truly belong. So let's take a look into Accenture's colorful community in this short video from Associate Director of Accenture Philippines, Ryan Tan.
I can still recall the day I joined Accenture in 2008 as a finance specialist. There was the fear in my mind on how people will treat me for being part of the LGBT plus community. And so I chose to hide my true identity. And it was very awkward and uncomfortable. I felt that there was this huge barrier that prevented me from unleashing my full potentials. But Accenture's commitment to LGBT plus inclusion liberated me from that fear and gave me to unleash my potentials and rise the ranks without being discriminated. I was able to bring my authentic self in the workplace. I was able to collaborate more, was proactive in contributing my ideas. And in the area of leadership, I would say that I was able to lead stronger. I am just amazed with the kind of support from the leadership, my stakeholders, my peers, my team. Because when you are true to yourself and transparent to your colleagues, you can be better at work. Now that I am an associate director, I continue to receive the same level of support. And I'm also paying it forward by extending my support and encouraging everyone to bring their most authentic self at work every day. Accenture is a safe haven, and I'm very lucky and fortunate to be working in a company that champions equality.
And it's truly inspiring to see such an amazing and inclusive workplace. And it's also amazing to see how Accenture proudly stands with their LGBT plus employees by embracing who they truly are. And now it's time to introduce an inspiring LGBT plus writer, actress, host, and entrepreneur. A proud transgender woman, she's raising awareness and educating people about LGBT plus rights, inclusion, and equality with her passion for storytelling. A communications graduate of the Ateneo de Manila University, she weaves her advocacy in her stories that she writes for ABS-CBN's TV shows, as well as the features and content that she writes for notable publications such as Rappler Philippines, Esquire, L'Officiel Manila, and many, many more. She's also made her mark in politics. This is probably where you might have even heard of her when she ran for the City Council of Marikina back in 2016. Her bold campaign slogan was Bata Bago Bakla, and it made waves and it went viral on social media. This year, she is representing the Philippines in Miss Trans Global, which is an international online pageant for trans and gender non-conforming people. Let's all discover how an outstanding storyteller made a stand to let her true colors shine. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Mela Habijan.
Thank you very much, Dean, for that beautiful introduction. I think that made me feel so empowered about the things that I have done in the past. And this is just a wonderful opportunity, not just for me to present myself, but really to represent my beautiful LGBTQIA plus community. Kaya sa lahat po ng mga kapiling natin, kapuso, kapatid, kapamilya, isang magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. Wherever you are across the globe, thank you very much, Accenture, for inviting me this afternoon. And I must say that at 33, I'm proud to be single, but I have gotten my heart broken so many times. So allow me to tell you the most painful heartbreaks that I've ever experienced. My first heartbreak happened when I was 4, at a time in which all of us are told that we can be whoever we want to be in life. And during that time, I wanted just one thing. I wanted to be crowned Miss Universe. I wanted to be a queen. I wanted to show the world how beautiful I am. However, I was told that I could not be Miss Universe, for I was born with a penis. And they said I should live by that truth, that I was a boy. Then, 13 years after, I dreamt another dream, to be seen on television, performing. And knowing the fact that I'm good at singing, I auditioned for this very big singing competition aired on television. I knew of my talent and I knew it would sail me through the audition rounds. And I almost got a cut. And during that time, I held on to the fact that the audition master thought I was good. However, he said, you know what? You're talented, but I think you're confusing. You sound like a man, but you act like a woman. And that resonated within me. That made me so insecure. It felt like I had talent within me, but I could not fulfill a dream that I've always wanted. So that made me stop singing, my second heartbreak. Then in 2007, as I was about to graduate from college, I wanted to be a part of this multinational FMCG company because I love their chocolate drinks so much. So I went to their placement session and asked the HR directress, would you be hiring gay applicants? Because during that time, I was identifying myself as a gay guy, for I did not know what a trans woman was. And then she answered, yes, we do. as long as that applicant looks professional. He should not be dressing up as a woman. That time, I was still expressing myself as a man. But it dawned on me that that company's measure of professionalism is by the way I look, by the way I present myself. It did not matter that I was graduating with honors. It did not matter that I was a great leader of the student council in my school, in my university, which is considered to be one of the best. And that was a time when I realized that the world is mean. It is heartbreaking to live in a world that doesn't allow me and people like me to dream. A world that always tells me that when you're an LGBTQIA, your dreams can never come true. The world tells me, pinili mo yan, so suffer the consequences. So this world pushed a lot of people in my community to hide in our closets and live in fear. And I was one of them. But then I've learned that fear is the opposite of love. That fear would always hide me from something that I've always wanted. That I am unfree. And with that realization, I chose to love myself, embrace my womanhood, and here I am now, showing the world the woman that I truly am. I may not have been Miss Universe, but I am now representing the Philippines at the Miss Trans Global 2020. Not a beauty pageant, but a trans pageant that champions LGBTQIA rights. I may not have been the singer that I wanted to be, but I'm now seeing myself on television. I act for TV series and digital series, taking on trans roles and trying to represent them in the best way I can. And I may not be working in a corporate workforce right now, but I can say that I am now good friends with a true champion of inclusion and diversity. And its name is Accenture. The world is a mean world to LGBTQ+. It has broken my heart a lot of times. But this world also allowed me to love myself unconditionally. And I am continuously loving myself. And I say, enough with this patriarchal society that always imprisons me, imprisons us LGBTQIA+, with the thought that we cannot be and we cannot do. Here we are, telling the world that as colorful, gifted, and talented and unique LGBTQIA+, we can shine, we can create, we can soar, we can influence, we can be who we want to be. Ako po si Mela, a proud transgender woman, reminding everyone, you are an unbreakable spirit.
Ask mantra question.
And by loving yourself, you can tell the world, Melaya ako at melaban ako. Thank you very much.
Wow. Wow. You know what, Mela? If that was your speech at the end of the final question of the pageant of the Trans Show International that you're joining, I think you'd already be the winner. Do they need a host? Is what I want to know. Do they have a host? I already host Miss Earth, Miss Eco International. You know, just drop my name and I'll happily ask the question. That was brilliant, but I know it's going to be tough. But if you could you wrap that up into a mantra? Everything that you just said, or how you live your life? Could you wrap it up in a mantra for us?
Well, thank you very much for the compliment, James. I hope I do win the pageant because I really want to represent and be a voice to the trans community. But if there's one mantra, that's the last line that I always say. And this is a closing statement to every vlog and every TV show that I do. It's I am a fighter. In life, we will always be fighters. And that fighter in us will always ignite us to be the best that we can be. It will always allow us to break barriers and just let the world know that these barriers being set upon us are just mere notions of shortcomings, of prejudices being thrown at me. So lagi kong sinasabi na keep reminding myself in front of the mirror, you know what, Mela, may laban ka. Keep on fighting, keep the fire burning because you are one beautiful soul.
Whew! Wow, powerful stuff. Mela, we look forward to having a little chat with you later on in the main Q&A with the other speakers. So stay on standby if you don't mind for that. Very, very powerful stuff. I learned a lot, very inspiring too. Now, it's no secret that Accenture's brand of innovation is acclaimed around the world, but their advocacy is also for diversity is become truly global. Now, let's take a look into Accenture's world-class workplace where they bring together people from many different cultures to further drive innovation. Let's learn about Accenture's cultural diversity in this short video from the Managing Director for Accenture Intelligent Operations Center in the Philippines, Lana Avery.
Accenture in the Philippines, we value cross-cultural diversity, the very way we respect our people, the way we treat them, the way we ensure they are individuals in their own right, and that they're able to achieve on a level of diversity that they're comfortable with. In the UK, United Kingdom, I'm not in the minority. I'm very much not in the minority. And that becomes ever more clearer and plainer when I've worked with so many cultures across Europe in my former business excellence role. And then having lived in Manila for 7.5 years has really taught me that we're all people and we all have a human nature and we all have something that makes us tick or we feel sensitive about. I'm used to walking into a room and perhaps not understanding the conversation that's happening, but I've learned to grow that that's okay. And walking into a room where maybe I don't really understand what's happening in that room, but that's also okay because I have a human nature and I have feelings and I'm sensitive too. And I know that with the right behaviours and the right core values, that we're all working as one. Very much so, I'm a minority in Manila, but I'm happy being a minority. It makes me feel safe and it's made me feel warm in a culture that truly embraces people right across the world. Now, my favourite saying, and people who know me know this, I might have been born in the UK, but my heart is in the Philippines.
Well, it's so refreshing to see innovators from different cultural backgrounds when a workplace bridges that divide between more cultures. And Accenture, well, shows us that it would lead to more innovation. Now, to continue this conversation about cross-cultural diversity, let us now welcome a highly experienced data specialist who is well-versed in a wide range of data-related technologies and has worked in the data world for over 15 years. Now, don't attempt to adjust your computer sets, all right? Because you may hear him speak and you may think there's something wrong with the machine. But no, this gentleman has a cultural background full of character, a little bit like myself, but I think he trumps me. Having been born in Northern Ireland, to be sure, he comes from a Chinese family who had immigrated from Hong Kong. And he grew up in between these two different cultures. And he's now fluent in both Cantonese, English, and the Irish accent. As he built his extensive consulting career and personal networks over the years, he gained experiences working as a data and AI studio director in the advanced technology centers in the Philippines, where he collaborated with teams and clients from all over the world. Let's all discover how his cross-cultural background has helped him reach across the world. Let's all give a warm welcome to the layman himself, Layman Sung.
Thank you, James, for that introduction. Accenture is a very large organization. We've got 500,000 people in 50 different countries. across the world. So part of what we need to do here is talk to people. And part of that is understanding where someone from a different culture comes from. What do they think? What drives them? What are they like? And my background is, as you said, United Kingdom, Northern Ireland. Lived in London for a long, long time. Lived now in the Philippines 4 or 5 years. So I have seen many cultures. I have yet to see a lot more. And it really excites me when I meet people from different areas, different kinds of people. I'm trying to understand what makes them tick, what is important to them, how do we connect as people? And I think I love the title of this program, Equality Equals Innovation, because one of my other roles in AI and data is to lead the innovation area. And part of what we always say about innovation is we have divergent thinking, where different thoughts, different viewpoints are extremely important to us. I might have an idea about something, but then my colleague will have a completely 180 spin on it and think something different, which might be better than mine, might complement my thinking. And that's how we get to innovation. We, as an organization, and many other organizations across the world, should embrace our differences to find what is the best way forward. Not just have one way of thinking, but multiple ways of thinking. I love Lana's line there about coming into meetings and not understanding what's happening. And that's fine with me. I said to all my teams, if you work better speaking Tagalog, go for it. Because if they can perform better with one person not understanding 100%, I understand Conti Lang. So carry on, work, come up with your ideas, and then somebody afterwards, please catch me up and tell me in simple terms what's going on. That's my philosophy, and that's how I want my teams to run. And it's all about finding those differences, respecting them, understanding them, not just across cultures, but between different viewpoints. To our three other fabulous panelists here, accepting the viewpoints of, say, an LGBTQ person, or bringing in the ladies of the team. Within the data group, we have what's known as the titas of data, and understanding what they're thinking about beyond the essential oils, beyond the scarves. Sorry, Elena, but we embrace it, and we bring in all this together to get the best answer for our clients, for ourselves, for everybody to progress.
Okay, am I back on now? Thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to have you with us here. LM, your experience working with people from different cultural backgrounds is really fascinating, and would like to know a little bit more. You have a very interesting story. A melting pot is what you describe it as. And so how has this given you any advantage in your workforce? You mentioned something about your colleague now coming with a completely different angle. Can you have any more examples of how that's helped you?
Yes. We need to understand primarily what our clients want. So if I have, say, a client coming in from the UK, I'm usually the guy brought in to explain what does a British person want, and what do they think about, what is important to them. If we're talking to Australians, what do they mean? What is that accent that they're going on? And what is the difference between Australian and a New Zealand accent? That one drives people nuts. But the viewpoints are important. To give a great example, our new accessibility centers, we could not design that without the viewpoint of a PWD. And I know as part of building it out, there was a lot of work around there of bringing in, not how do we think a PWD needs, what we think they would need, but really, reach out. What do they actually need by asking? We have the thought of having empathy for the person, for having empathy for the group, and all of that comes together to understand what is a client or a person's viewpoint? What is their pain point? And that leads us to how do we solve that, which is how do we come up with a solution, which is what we do at the end of the day.
Wonderful stuff. Very, very. I can see how this all comes together and gives you that dynamic, I guess, approach to everything. And just to answer your question, the difference between the New Zealand and the Australian accent, the number 6. Just that's it. Just get the New Zealander to say 6, and that's it. You will spot them a mile off. All right. Well, you know what? We're running a little short in time, so we're going to call you back in just a little while, LM, and get some more thoughts with the rest of our speakers. So thank you very much, LM. We'll come back in just a little while. We also want to check your Mentimeter stuff. So that's how our audience is feeling, what they're thinking as well out there. So let's go and check that. I hope I have the right kind of screen in front of me. Okay, can I see that one? There we go. Here we are checking the live. Okay, there it is. You see that screen? Is that the one of the Mentimeter? All right, so it gives you all these different types of words, and this is representing the feeling, the mood out there. And I see acceptance being huge and family. I love those words. These are nice, positive words, and I don't mean positive in a negative type of way, because you got to always say that in COVID now. You say positive in a negative kind of way or negative positive. All right, so it's a word cloud. It puts everything together and just sort of gives us a bit of a snapshot and visual in words of how you guys are feeling out there. And I like the feeling. It looks pretty good. Okay, so it's an honor to be surrounded by all these wonderful people. And I'm learning so much about this whole diversity in the workplace, which is inclusive. I'm learning about how important this is. And not just because of the humanitarian side. I mean, it's easy to sort of look at it as an obligation, a company obligation. But when it's framed to you in the way where, look, when she rises, we all rise, it's not anymore some kind of charity, for lack of a better word. That should be completely out of our mindset, that we're doing this just to help other people because we feel it's our need. If you can also couple it with proving that there's a good business model behind it, because people do work at their best when they're respected, when they're included, and when they have all of their diversity is celebrated, you can really get the best out of people. I love the examples that were given by all of our speakers who gave these wonderful examples of how it can truly give you an edge in business. So very, very important stuff that we're learning here from all of our speakers. And as you can see with the word cloud over there, in the Mentimeter, it really gives us a good, accurate look at how people are feeling there in words. And I'm glad to see everybody's participating in this, and the way that they are really shows that we're making an impact, and this is what it's all about. So thank you for all of that, for everyone who's participated in this. It's truly heartwarming, and I think this is going to bring us in to a better workplace or a better era for the workforce. Remember, we're not just trying to improve tomorrow, it's the next year and the year after. We're trying to change the culture here, and with your help, we can do just that. Okay, so thank you very much for participating. At this point in time, we'll now be asking our speakers for their insights, and we'll invite our 4 panelists again back in here. We got Dan, Ryan, Mela, and Layman. If these guys can join me, we will have our main Q&A. This looks either a little bit like the Brady Bunch, or does anyone remember the Muppet Show? You know, when they would have the, yeah, this is what Zoom conferences look like now. These multiple boxes and stuff. Guys, thank you again. I can't tell you how much I've learned from this. And if I'm learning, I can imagine what our audience is going through right now and what they're gaining from all of this. So my first question to Dana, I think, is the first question here. Can we just make sure that we have, because I'm also updating from FB questions, and I look like I'm in the Starship Enterprise over here, trying to make sure all the tech, and we include everybody, because it wouldn't be called an inclusivity program and dialogue if we weren't going to include the crowd, right? This is why we like to do it. Okay, Dana, your question. Or 1,000 pesos cash. Just joking. You got excited. Look at them. But she paid more attention, though, when I said it. How do you spend time with your family, given that you have a very challenging job? Good question.
That's actually a pretty tough question. It really needs to be a very conscious effort, um, for me to be able to balance out my job, my career, as well as time for my family and time for my friends, even time for health and wellness. I have to make a very very conscious effort to make sure that I allocate the right amount of time for each. Um, so I make it a point to well, now I live with my parents since the lockdown, which is actually a good thing because I get to live back at home. Um, but outside of the lockdown, right? I try to make it a point to call my parents a few times a week. I see them on the weekends. When things get really tough, and I travel a lot because Lala Move is present in multiple cities, right? The moment I get home, my first stop is my parents' house, right? And really making sure that I get to balance out that time. It's something that is not just helpful for my family, to keep my family intact, but it's also very helpful to keep my sanity intact. You need to make that time to bring yourself down on the ground and spend time with the people that matter the most to you. So it doesn't. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It's not easy, but you have to make it work, right?
Dana, do you use any logistics software to balance that between your family? No, I'm just because if anyone could do it, it would be you, right? Finding the balance in between and putting priority. Okay, dad's top priority today. I'm just kidding. Thanks, Dana. Now, Mela.
To
Mm,
sorry.
Oh no,
Let me
pardon.
just get the last point
Yeah.
in. Sorry, Mela. There's a way to make it work, you know. For example, sometimes I do, let's say I have speaking engagements, right? And it's on a weekend. That means it took up time for my family. What I do is actually bring my mom. I've reached a stage where I'm not ashamed to have my mom with me in company engagements. I'm actually pretty happy about that. People are like, "Oh my God, your mom's so pretty." Yeah. And it's pretty good, right? Because afterwards we get to have dinner, we get to talk, and she appreciates and understands what I do even more. So now I don't come home with my parents. There's no conflict with my parents saying that you don't have time for us because they really understand what it is that I do. They appreciate it, they support it. And that becomes a very healthy conversation between us, right? If they think I'm spending too much time at work, they also help me out because now they understand. So yeah, sorry about that. Go ahead,
That's
Mel.
okay.
No,
You know
you're
what?
fine, Dana.
What we're expecting an app. Expecting an app to balance family life. So work on that now, Dana. Mela, what about the role of your allies? How do you see the role of your allies in your professional and your personal life?
You know what? The feels of a pageant question and answer portion just dawned on me. Well, James, you know what? Allies are very important for us to amplify our movement for equal rights. I believe that allies are crucial to hearing our stories because they understand what we are going through. Allies not only support us, but not they don't just empathize with us, but they fight with us. And that ability to be able to share the same space with them, to be able to share stories with them, to be able to assure of ourselves that we are not alone in this battle. Allies at the workplace, allies at home, allies anywhere in this country or across the world will always make us feel good about our being LGBTQ plus, because at the end of the day, sharing the same space with anyone, regardless of his, her, their gender, that's an assurance that I am here to stay, I am here to live, and I can be who I want to be.
Wow. Okay. At least you didn't say world peace. So we're on the right track. I love you, Melly. You're doing it. It's awesome. I love how you speak. You speak with so much passion, and I can imagine the strength that you give people in your community. So thank you for that. Now, Ryan, how can we encourage the society that to see? We talked about this earlier about the business case. Remember how I was saying in my little monologue there about how it's not just about being kind to one another, which should already be enough of a reason, but providing a business case to see that the ability first and that how can we encourage a society to see the ability first and that this will help the economy in the long run? Does that make sense?
Yes, of course, totally. And I think number one answer is data. You have to tell people that it's proven. And like Accenture, for example, in their report said that a company that embraces diversity and inclusion has 4 times more shareholder returns compared to their to their peers, and also that macro data as well as micro narratives, the stories of people. I believe the power of storytelling can actually convince people to rethink how they actually behave. And at Virtualan, we have a motto that like informed citizens create inclusive societies, and I think that's very, very proven.
Excellent. Excellent answer. Thank you so much. And to layman, or LM as he's also fondly referred to, what trait do you, because you're not from here, so I'm going to ask you, what trait do you think that stands out from our Filipino colleagues whom you've worked with or who are currently working with now?
Thank you for such an interesting question, James. I think the trait which stands out for the Filipino is happy optimism. Filipinos, I find, will walk in a room and there will be this smile. There will always be this smile. And whenever I'm in the meetings, I can see that. And especially when lunch arrives. If there's a meeting of 10 people, we feed 40. That's what I love about it. It's that happy, optimistic view on life of, you know what, we will find a solution. We will find a way through whatever problem we're solving. And I'm very lucky to work with some very smart people in the Liquid Studio Manila. We are problem solvers at heart and feeders second as well. So we go in and clients, our own people come to us with problems, and we'll sit down, work our way through it, and have fun while doing it. And I think that's that is tremendous, because in the UK we're gonna be just dull, plodding through it. In Ireland, we're going to be a bit smilier because Ireland's normally smilier, but still not like here, not with the smile. There's something about the smile.
Well, that's all. I think the only place that starts our Christmas greetings in September. So yeah, I think that speaks volumes about the mindset of the. And we're doing a countdown now. We're doing a countdown now because it's mid-August. So any day now, you're going to hear the malls start playing that piped-in music. Something truly special about Filipinos. I agree with you there. A very happy bunch and very positive bunch of people. Okay, it's time now for what we call our quick fire. Now, this is where you have to really... Was that a sound effect? We have sound effects. This is cool. It feels like a real game show. I'm living my dream now. I've always wanted to host a game show. So we're going to ask you a question, and you just have to answer as fast as you can, okay? So a lot's going to depend on the speed that you answer. Dana, you first. True or false, and why? Ayun. Ready? The Philippines is already ahead in gender equality. Thus, less work is now required for the society. True or false, and why?
True. I mean, I think the company where I'm at, and also for Accenture, is one of the biggest, or two of the biggest tests. Napapressure ako for my sentences anymore.
You want to phone a friend?
Companies that are in the Philippines now have gone leaps and bounds to make sure that there is equality in the workforce. You can see it with the number of women in the company, the number of managers or leaders, CEOs, COOs, CFOs that are now that are women. It's fantastic, and I can really say with confidence that the Philippines is way ahead of a lot of countries when it comes to this.
Nice. Okay. By the way, before I let you go, I have an idea already for your app to balance the family life, because you're so techie and you know how to. It can be called Mama Move. All right. So then you can. That's a Tito joke right there. Ryan, Sharpen up your, get ready, adjust your
Let's go.
headphones. You ready? Warm up, stretch, okay? It's coming your way, all right? True or false, and why? Persons with disabilities can only perform specific tasks or jobs.
True.
Okay.
Part of having a disability is embracing your disability and acknowledging your limitation. But once you are placed in an environment where you're given the opportunity to do what you're really good at, and then there's an investment to remove all the barriers, you can still achieve your true potential and really unleash disability there. I mean, abilities there for sure.
I like it. I like how this is going. This is a lot of fun. Mela, are you ready?
I am Tito James. Bring it
Okay.
on.
And the $1 million question for you, Mela. True or false, and why? Here's the statement. Trans women are still men.
False. Very much false. Because
And then why?
trans women are real women. Our identities do not rely and will never rely on our biology because womanhood is beyond biology. Our minds are the organs that think. Our heart is the organ that feels. Our hands and feet are the organs that move. So we are beyond the organs that are in between our legs. Thank you.
Wow. Powerful stuff. Okay. Layman. Are you ready? You're the lucky last here. Okay.
I don't want to
for
go after Mela.
All right. True or false, and why? Our cultural differences can work to our advantage. This is an easy one.
Massive truth. A huge truth. You know, cultures from around the world will give us the divergent thinking we need to solve global problems. There's a very old saying, which is you have to think globally, act locally, and it's true for everything we do for all of us. And culture is different from around the world. It comes together. Say Philippines, you have Filipino culture, you have the Spanish culture, you have the American culture, you have a tiny bit of British culture from when this was part of the British Empire for, I think, a year or two back in the 17th century. There's a plaque in Intramuros which says it. But all of that comes together to say, this is how we solve a problem for this place, for this place, for this place. And that's how we need to think.
Okay, there's a bonus question. They're telling me that, yeah, the director's saying, no, that's the last one, but it's the last question. Conor McGregor or Manny Pacquiao, if they fought, who's going to win?
Ooh, which set of rules?
Huh?
Which set of rules? Boxing or MMA?
Boxing.
Boxing be Manny Pacquiao.
All right, there you go. Just wanted to see where your loyalties lie. We made it easier for you. Okay, we were talking before about some of the things that you love about Filipinos and stuff like that. There is one unique thing about Filipinos. We cannot end a Zoom meeting or webinar without a group picture. So I ask everybody to prepare for your group picture and your groupie by looking into the camera, and we're going to do this. Here we go. I love how people do this, as if like, oh, the whole time we weren't cleaned up, but we'll do this now. So here we go with our group picture. Do we all have a smile? There you go. Now it's officially Filipino. This is now an ISO certified webinar for Accenture Filipino style, because we had our, if we just had a little sweet spaghetti and siomai, this should complete it all. Thank you to our speakers. You guys have been absolutely awesome. So much fun. Thank you. Uplifting, funny, encouraging. I learned, I cried, I laughed, I did everything. And I'm sure that all of you guys did the same. We got some shout out signs there. Are those okay? No, they're not. They're for me. Those are internal. Sorry, I'm looking at so many screens now. I hope you learned a lot with today's illuminating discussion. And to end this celebration on an uplifting note, let us all welcome Accenture's Managing Director and Inclusion and Diversity Executive Sponsor, Marixie Carlos, and Global Inclusion and Diversity Lead, Amanda Lisi.
Hey, James, thanks for the intro. It's been a wonderful event so far, and I've enjoyed. Thank you so much for everyone who's joined us, all of our external guests. But obviously, we could not end this without a very special guest. So I want to introduce everyone to Amanda Lisi. Amanda is the Global Managing Director for Inclusion and Diversity at Accenture, a role she's held since 2015. Under her leadership, Accenture made a very public commitment of achieving 50% women by 2025 and have seen number of women rise from 115,000 to 190,000. She launched the powerful Inclusion Starts With I campaign, which has already engaged more than 1 million people around the globe. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have watched that. It's quite moving. Accenture, for 2 consecutive years, has ranked #1 on the Refinitive's Diversity and Inclusion Index and was recognized as the Global Company of the Year by Stonewall. Amanda has built leadership support from the very top and used innovation to drive change, for example, leveraging virtual reality technology and harnessing the power of data analytics to drive change. Outside of Accenture, Amanda is a mother to 2 young children and is passionate about her role as a board member for 2 separate charities championing equality for women and children. So welcome to our event, Amanda. The floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. The internet keeps driving off, so I'm hoping that I don't get caught with a very strange face. Anyway, I just have a couple of minutes, I believe, and there's 2 things I really want to impress on everybody. The first thing is, as you important conversation, inclusion and diversity are business imperative. It is not just a nice to have. And I've been quite close to some of the work Julie Sweet has done over the months as she's been in her first year. And I can tell you that the passion and commitment from her leadership is even stronger than which was already amazing. So please, be in no doubt that the drive for inclusion and diversity is going to continue. As you've discussed, the Philippines really leads the world. And the second thing I want to say is a huge thank you. My first trip to the Philippines was actually in 2003. And I was taken to a Christmas market in September, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And I absolutely loved it. It's one of my favorite countries in the world. I've traveled and worked in 17 different countries. I actually lived in Hong Kong for 4 years and India for several years as well. And I can tell you that the Philippines is the warmest, most welcoming country, and I believe that is down to a lot of the diversity. I went to my first flag meeting in 2005 and I was overwhelmed by how progressive the Philippines was already in a topic that was difficult to talk about in other countries. And on Monday, we're going to celebrate the I&D Excellence Awards with Julie Sweet and the GMC. And the Philippines is getting an award for progress in gender diversity and also for persons with disability and the amazing work that's happened there. So I just want to say a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know that a lot of this work is done on the side of your desks as an extra lift, and it does take time and effort away from other commitments that you have. And so that's my parting note, really. Just a huge thank you to everybody listening into this. Please know that it's really appreciated and we see the difference. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. I know that you have a very busy schedule as well. So taking time out of your day to be with us, really means a lot. Thank you.
I wouldn't miss it for the world. It was my favorite thing for the week this week. So thank you for having me.
All right. So just a few parting words. I know we're a little bit over time, but overall, all of our speakers, thank you so much. James, thanks for being a wonderful host. I just want want to share across all of the segments of diversity that we've heard. The stories are great. Really, what resonates is the importance of culture. Building a culture that allows and encourages each and every one of us and the people we work with to bring our authentic selves to work every day is so important, and it unleashes so much value, right? Not only on a personal level, but also on a professional level, and for the companies that we work for and the customers and clients that we serve. So again, our ask of you, let's all be culture makers. Thank you very much. Back to you, James.
Wow, thank you. Thank you very much for all the inspiring words, Marixie and Amanda. And we've reached the end. That's so sad. We're here already, but it's been a lot of fun and time's just flown. It's the end of the Accenture Equality Innovation 2020. And as the event comes to a close, I hope we're all inspired to just open up our minds and make the change towards a brighter future for all. So thank you also once again to all of our wonderful speakers for enlightening us with such great insights. And I also think we should give a special shout out and thank you and recognize our sign language interpreter, Jeff Cortez. Jeff, how do you interpret clapping like that? I guess it's like this. Well, thank you very much for that. And thank you for translating this whole event for us tonight. And once again, this has been James Deacon. Thank you all for coming and have a great day. Bye, guys.